Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you find yourself today. It's another beautiful day. I always say that the moment your feet hit the ground from your bed, it's an awesome day because you got life. The rest of it will take care of itself if you make the right choices. Once again, you're welcome to Leadership Academy. It is an honor and a privilege to be here to have a discussion with you on the issues concerning us. When I say us, I mean Black people, Africa, and people of African descent. Today, we are going to continue the discussion of dealing with the corruption, that cancer called corruption on the continent of Africa. And as we always say on this platform, that when we talk about issues facing Africa, when we talk about issues concerning Africa, we're not talking about the fact that it only happens in Africa or it happens within the Black communities. Most of the issues we discuss, most of the issues facing Africa, or let me say the issues facing Africa happens to be human issues. So long as you find human beings anywhere on the planet Earth, you're going to find these issues. But the problem is that in Africa, we have not developed systems to deal with these issues or to curb these issues or to come back to these issues. That is why we keep talking about it on this platform, so that our political managers will rise up and begin to see the urgency of building systems to be able to help develop the continent of Africa. So when we talk about issues, for instance, when we talk about corruption, we're not saying it only happens in Africa. It will amaze you. Some of the biggest scandals and some of the biggest corruptions happen in places you would not even think of. But as we always say, so long as there are human beings on Earth, there would always be issues here on Earth. But the only difference is that other places have developed systems to deal with their issues, and we have not. That is why we are concerned about raising these issues, so we would be able to build up systems to take care of these issues and to help us develop our beautiful continent. Before we zoom in, as usual, creativity and inventions are not by the color of one's skin. Somebody tested me and was asking, why do I always have to repeat this, even if we're not talking about issues relating to the color of one's skin? And I keep telling him, the more we hear some of these things, the more it sticks in our minds and the more we begin to think about it. And when we begin to think about it, it begins to sink. It gives us understanding. The only difference between a wise person and a foolish person is that the wise person thinks. He or she uses that white substance, I believe it's white substance between the ears. He or she puts it into good use by thinking. That's the only difference. Some people were not created to be wise and others created to be fools. No, that's not it. Everybody was created equal, or we were all born equal. What makes the difference is what you use your mind or your brains for. That's what makes the difference. So you actually, I heard a statement which I kind of loved. He said, if you refuse to use your brains, it'll wear and tear down your body. Let me bring it to the Chi language, which really excited me when I heard it. So why in other words, if you refuse to think, It'll wear and tear down the body. So let's begin to use that brain. So that is why we keep saying this over and over, that creativity and inventions are not by the color of one's skin, but by an educated mind. It does not matter what the skin color is. It could be brown, yellow, blue, indigo, purple, whatever color your skin is. So long as you educate your mind, you will be able to create and invent. So sometimes I get a bit uncomfortable when I hear people saying, oh, look, this is the works of the white man, when they see something amazing and or something fascinating or creativity or an invention, and they go like, this is the inventions of the white man, or this is the mind of the white man, in the wisdom of the white man. He did that in the wisdom. And I keep saying, it is not because they are white people. The creation or the invention was not done because they are white. It was done because whoever did it educated him or herself. And sometimes you'd be amazed, some of the things we even give credit to other races were done by Black people. That's a different story anyway. So getting that out of the way, we want to introduce today's topic, which is another dimension of fighting corruption or dealing with that cancer on the continent of Africa, the cost of doing business on that continent. And I know Prof is very ready to bombard us today. Without much ado, I just want Prof, my co-pilot, to introduce himself, and we have Henry as well. He also introduced himself, and then we'll set the ball rolling. So Prof, over to you.
Yeah, and I'll say good afternoon, good evening to everybody. Good morning, wherever you are on the globe. My name is Kwejewa from Pond. I'm also a servant of Afriwic International Organization. I always forget to mention that. But Nana, going back to your introduction, that invention is not by the color of one's skin. I would actually like to come in. When you grow up being told that if you are going to church and you meet a white man, you should go back home because you already met God. And if history is distorted to make your race look inferior, and if practical evidence in your face also tells you that your race might not be as, exemplary as other races, it is important that we continue to import this to our people, that it has nothing to do with the color of one's skin. We were having an argument on my 1992 secondary school platform about the Lion King, the lion being the king of the jungle. And I came at them saying that we have YouTube. The lion is just an animal of ingenuity and cunning. He goes for the weakest of the weak. And before we had YouTube, they had me believing that, yeah, the lion is the king of the jungle. He's not. Okay. And then one of my very intelligent classmates came back and told the others arguing on the opposite side that those people actually telling us that the lion is the king of the jungle don't even have lions on their continent. So
they don't even know where the lion lives.
They have them in zoos. They don't have them in the wild on their continent. So why are they the ones telling us that the lion is the king of the jungle, when in our face we can see that that is not true? If you go and research on this, you'll be surprised what animals can actually make the lion run away? Okay? And that brings me back to a proverb I always use. Until the lion learns to tell his side of the story of the hunt, the story of the hunt will always glamorize the hunter. His story is written by the conqueror. And until we learn to understand that as Black people, as African people, we have done some amazing things that have been glossed over, and we start researching and writing our own history, we will continue to believe this fallacy that we are inferior. It's been pushed down for centuries, and it's especially so in America. It's not so much as a dauntless task to educate people on the African continent, but in America, it's really, really bad because slavery and abuses have been heaped on people for so long. They actually do believe this, and I've been having conversations with people. So yeah, inventions are by an educated mind. Has nothing to do with the color of the skin. And we'll keep saying that. That's my introduction for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Henry, would you want to introduce yourself and then we will set the ball rolling?
Okay, and thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, my name is Henry Kumacha. I should say I'm a regular viewer to Afriwic Media. So thank you. So if we start and I have anything, I will contribute.
Thank you so much, Henry. Alrighty, so today we're going to talk about the cost of doing business in Africa. It is interesting. Prof sent me a video, I believe yesterday, but I saw it today. And it's sometimes, again, back to when we were talking about if you refuse to think, you wear and tear down this body. When somebody decided to do something for a community and the community decided in their own wisdom to frustrate this person, it quickly brought into memory a story I heard about a community. I believe it was Prof who told that story, I believe it was Prof. Correct me if I'm wrong. So the community needed drinking water, potable drinking water. And I believe one of these organizations, philanthropic organizations, decided to dig a well, a borehole for them. And when the organization visited the community some few months later, they have destroyed the borehole. The community has destroyed the borehole. So they were trying to find out why they have destroyed the borehole in some few months' time after the borehole was commissioned, only to be told that before they gave them the borehole and gave that community a drinking water, the kids were going to the river, which is about a mile or so away, to go fetch water from the river. And anytime the kids go to the river to fetch water,
I said that.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that is when the parents make love, because they live in one room, so they cannot make love with the kids in the same room. But when the kids go down to the river to fetch water, it will take them quite some time, at least about an hour, between 30 minutes and an hour. So the parents will have that time or the opportunity to make love. So they destroyed the borehole serving the whole community water. And then it sets in how do some people think? How do some people process information? So in this instance, the community does not want to find ways of improving themselves in order to be able to devise means or strategies to be able to maintain that aspect of their lives, as well as getting the drinking water in that community. But they choose the status quo. Let us stay here. Let us maintain the status quo, because this is what works for us. And then you begin to ask yourself, sometimes I wonder if some of us have brains. Sometimes it makes me think that some of us have a quarter of a brain, or maybe just a fraction of a brain, and some people have full brains. You know, so I was watching this video today about a sister from Ghana who has decided to help a community. And the community is frustrating her just because some people want some extra monies to be paid to them, individuals. So an individual's interest is overpowering the interest of the whole community. And there are so many stories I can tell. I have personal first-hand information of some people who've decided to move to Ghana specifically to set up. There's one who happens to be my dad's friend, set up a hospital in Ghana. And he got frustrated by the bureaucracy, by corruption, people wanting him to pay bribe, people want him to they call it grease palms, for them to be able to do the work they're being paid to do. And this person got frustrated. He had shipped equipment to Ghana, medical equipment. He had to ship everything back to the Netherlands and abandon the project. And sometimes you begin to wonder. You see, there's a reason why I refuse to call these people leaders. They are political managers. They're not leaders. Because a leader thinks about the next generation. A leader thinks about, what can I do to better the lots of the people that I'm serving? What can I do to make the lives of the people better when I walk out of this office? I always tell my kids, one of the ways you can be conscious of your environment is that anytime you enter a place, leave that place better than you saw it when you first entered. You have that attitude. Even in the bathroom, you go to the bathroom, you make sure you leave that place better. You don't create a mess for somebody else to come and take care of that mess. And if we have that attitude, we develop that attitude. Anytime I show up, I must leave this place better than I first met it. And that should be the attitude or the mindset of a leader. So if you call yourself a leader and you don't have this attitude where you frustrate people who are bringing jobs to your community, who are trying to create wealth in your community, and you frustrate them and they abandon the projects just because you have an individual interest at heart, which surmounts that of the community, I'm sorry. I can't bring myself to think of you as a leader. Prof, please take over whilst I look at Facebook.
Of that story of the people destroying the world, you remember we were talking about whenever you want to do something for a community, you should go and ask them the best way. I did natural resources and human development. Sometimes those of us from the outside, we think we will have all the solutions, but there might be some unwritten rules, norms that we might not know. So that's where that research came from. You have to go back to them and then ask them for their opinions. Even though you have the best of intentions, you might not know the hidden traps in the community. So yeah, there is that aspect to the problem too. Now talking about corruption and the cost of doing business. Are you aware that 50 years ago, before the Watergate scandal, companies actually took a tax return for bribes they paid while doing business in Africa? They did. Okay, European companies, American companies, the hush, they had a slush fund. The hush money that they actually paid to facilitate their doing business on other continents was actually a refund for them. And they actually corrupted a lot of government officials in order to do business in Africa, and they could write it off. It was after the scandal and its aftermath that systems were put in place to stop that. It still happens, but it's not blatant like it used to be. And that was your opening salvo. Societies need to be dynamic, keep on creating the system, because every day there's going to be a problem and we have to find a way of solving that problem. On the issue of cost of business, the actual cost of doing business in sub-Saharan Africa. Let me give you an anecdote of my personal experience. I went back home 2015 and I tried to have a legitimate driving license in Ghana. Legitimate driving license in Ghana. It took me 2.5 years to have a driver's license, when it is supposed to take you about 6 weeks or a month. It is not simply red tape. I call it artificial, what do we call I just lost the word. Unavailability. It's not that
artificial shortage.
Artificial shortage. They will intentionally make sure you don't have what it takes in order to have what you need to have, so that you pay a bribe. You see, this is where systems and checks and balances need to come in. Look, I live in Kumasi, but I had to go to Mampong. Just imagine the cost of up and down for 2.5 years, just to get a legitimate driver's license. Wow. My friend decided that he would not go through the legitimate route, and he paid 400 Ghana, let's say $150 extra for it. Within 2 weeks, he had his driver's license. Imagine my shock and my anger. And my friend never sat behind a wheel to even do a driving test. As I speak to you, he might not even know how to drive, but he has a driver's license because he could pay a $50 extra amount of money. So what is my incentive to do the right thing? You see, this is where we talk about systems. What if you ask me honestly today, that if I go back to Ghana and I need a driver's license, will I go through the legitimate route? No, I won't. I'm being honestly honest with you, because the trouble I went through with the police stopping me all the time, doing the taking that, they will take the money from you because there's nothing in place to prevent them from taking the money. So imagine if I'm a businessman and I'm doing my research about opening a company either in the Gambia, in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Somalia, in Kenya, in South Africa, or in Djibouti, or let's say in other places that have efficient systems running. And I come across that in order to open a $2 million company, I will have to pay an extra 1 million in any other place compared to where I can get the same company running efficiently with 2 million. Where do you think I will go? And that's the reason why Africa is losing on investment. Every research that you do comes out that when it comes to what we pay our employees, Africa would have been a destination for so many companies. Why are those companies going to China? Why are they going to Taiwan? Why are they going to Brazil? It is the cost of doing business. There is artificial shortage upon artificial shortage upon artificial shortage, and you end up paying bribes to individuals and to organizational heads to facilitate your ability to do business. And that comes back to add to the cost of opening up a business, which in effect makes it more burdensome, more expensive to produce anything in Africa. So the economies of scale that comes with lower wages and all that it vanishes into thin air. And that's why we are losing investments, billions of dollars a year, because of this thing that we call corruption. So money is going into individual pockets that should be going to government, that the government should reinvest into infrastructure and into systems that will ease the ability to do business in most African countries. And it is a very cyclical, negative system that goes on. My research was telling me that there are some people who believe that in a country that don't have systems and there is too much red tape, bribing and corruption can actually effectively allow serious business-minded people to operate. That's fair, but it is only short-term. What is the long-term effect of bribing individuals in order to do the thing? The most effective way is to create the systems that will facilitate ease of establishing a business in the long term. Because in the short term, you might, like my boy paid an extra $50 to gain a driver's license. Imagine 200 other people did exactly the same thing without a driving test, without anything. These people get on our roads. You know the cost. I don't need to tell you. And it is happening on a daily basis. It's the same with business. Once I pay a bribe, I have every incentive to be a Shylock and get the money I paid as bribe back, because I'm going to put that into my cost of production. I'm going to find ways to evade taxes. And I'm going to find ways to increase my products, the price of my product, so that I can recoup whatever I have infused into my business. And that's what we see happening on the African continent. That's what we see. So businesses have every incentive to avoid taxes, because let's say I'm supposed to pay $200,000 as my annual tax, but there is an official that will take $20,000 as a bribe, and then I pay $50,000 as my tax. The government has just lost $130,000 And that money could have gone into infrastructure, into social programs, into so many other things. That will in turn make it easier for businesses to operate in any country. And that's why one of the most corrosive effects of corruption comes by way of increasing the cost of doing business. Thank you.
Prof, thank you so much. Just before we continue, I just want to remind viewers that the Zoom link has been posted on Facebook. It's under the program. When you go to the comment section, the Zoom link has been posted there. So if you want to join the discussion, you can click on that link and you'll be a part of the discussion. So Prof spoke about loss of income to the nations for frustrating potential businessmen who are investing into the communities. I would also take it from the angle of the loss of lives. I think Prof touched a little bit on that, but before I go there, I want to give Henry the opportunity, if he has any contribution, if he has any suggestions, any opinions, any questions, he can table them before I jump to that aspect of the danger to life.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nana. Yeah, I just want to add something to what the profs say. Yeah, it's true. Things that happen in Africa continent is so sad that you see some of them and you wonder how those things happen. Yeah, you see, companies, organizations in Africa some have systems. They have good systems, but just that they don't use those systems to check what is bad, what is good, you know. So most of the time most of the time they abuse those systems. That make people have opportunity. You know, when you create the opportunity for corruption, people will definitely go for it, take advantage of it. So the system sometimes are there, but people maneuver, they manipulate and do whatever they want to do. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for that submission. Yes, so Prof mentioned the friend who paid extra $50 to gain driver's license. And as he rightly said, this person might not even know how to drive. And we have a bunch of them within the systems in places like Ghana, where people can sit at home, pay money for their driver's license to be made available to them. It is sad that Ghana is one of the places where we experience a lot of motor vehicle accidents in the world. One of the highest places in the world is Ghana. I was not amazed when I saw the figures. I've forgotten the figures, but I was not amazed when I saw the figures because of some of the things Prof just outlined. So if you give a driver's license to somebody who you don't even know, he or she has the qualification or the requisite knowledge to be able to sit behind the wheels, what do you expect? And then we have people within the systems who don't even own a driver's license, but they drive every day. And they get pulled over most of the times, but they had to pay their way through. So the dangers of doing business or the cost of doing business in Africa is also loss of lives. It's part of the cost we have to pay because of the corrupt systems we have in place. Again, where people had to pay to win contract bids. We have our road network. And some of the road networks, when I visited Ghana, there was a place I visited and I was told this particular road was constructed 2 years ago. And if you see the state of the road after 2 years of construction, you begin to wonder if that was constructed or the road was made by a competent road construction company. And if it was not a competent road construction company, how did they earn the bid, the bid to construct the road? All of these things are due to corruption. And then again, it also leads to the loss of lives because we have manholes within the road networks. Some places, they're simply impassable. Yes, when I talk about manhole, I'm talking about manhole, not a pothole. Some of the places you drive through and you're like, how does this happen in the 21st century? And these are roads that have just been constructed 2-3 years. And then the road goes bad. And you have a lot of accidents happening on that road because of potholes, manholes. These are all due to the corrupt practices of our political managers and the people we have put in power to manage the communities. So it is not just the financial aspect that is affecting Africa, but even lives are being lost because people have chosen their personal interest over that of the community. And sometimes you think about it, you sit to think about it, and it blows your mind how a human being can think and process the way they do. And it looks like we are degenerating into an animal kingdom as far as corruption is concerned. The survival of the fittest, who can maneuver, who can outwit who can have the best connections, who can pay the most. And it's mind-boggling. And we want to believe that we are a sovereign state full of people, intelligent people. It is amazing the loss of lives that comes with the corrupt nature within the African communities. It's just mind-blowing. Some places don't even have potable drinking water because of corruption. And people die of sicknesses they should not be dying of. And sometimes you think about it, and I wonder what goes on in the minds of the people who are overseeing these communities. When all these negativity are going on within the community, and you call yourself the president, you call yourself the MP of the community, you call yourself the chief, you call yourself whoever in position of power, and all of these negative things are happening within that community. I just don't know how they're able to compose themselves and even come to the public and to the limelight to give speeches or to show their faces and be called honorables and what have you. So we're just pleading again, one more time on this platform. We're pleading with our political managers. Just pay attention to the responsibilities that have been entrusted in your care. Go into office and make your community a better place. Walk out of office with your head high, knowing that you've made the place a better place than you walked in. Because trust me, if you have all the monies, okay, and you build all the mansions, and there's poverty all around you, it does not glorify you. I don't know how people feel. If you are the giant amongst dwarfs, if you're the giant amongst dwarfs, how are you going to even improve yourself? Because at this point, you're concerned. You have no competition. So you're content with where you are. Meanwhile, that should not even be the place you're supposed to be. You have no challenge. And if we want to grow, if we understand the things of life, I was reading about work. Let me just digress a little bit. I was reading about work and I realized that we don't even understand that word we call work. It is not where we go and clock in and clock out. It is life. The whole of life is work. And it has to come with growth. It has to come with development. So if we as a people go into office claiming that we are there to work, and at the end of the day, we cannot measure our work or the output of whatever we claim to be work. It cannot be measured against a certain barometer of growth, then we're joking. So please, those of you in places of power, even at home, like I always say, charity begins at home. Let's begin to educate our children. I was watching a video talking about education. And he said, if you have dumb parents, you don't get education. If you have wise parents, you get education. And we'll go into that some other time. It was a brilliant presentation, submission the guy made. And it is very true. Because what we go to do in the classroom is not education. That is school. So if you go to school and your parents are not intelligent to educate you, you know where you're heading. So some of the costs of corruption in Africa is loss of lives. People die. No wonder we have the highest rate of accidents in Ghana. Because road contractors are not qualified. Jobs are given to cronies, friends, families. And they do shoddy jobs and there are no systems to check what they do. And they walk away with fat checks and nobody cares. And potholes, manholes are created within no time and people are dying and nobody cares. And sometimes what blows my mind is when people die, some of these accidents and people want to attribute them to spirits. And I'm like, do we think? Did the spirit ask you not to get a competent road construction company? Did the Spirit created the potholes and the manholes? I mean, we have to start thinking. If we really want to go or build a continent, a beautiful continent as it was intended from the beginning, then we have to start thinking. And one of the places that can help us is to fight in corruption in every way we see it, every shape or form, be it in the schools, at home, in the political arena, everywhere we see it, we need to fight it because it is killing our people. And I think I've spoken enough. If anybody has any submission, you can take the platform. I am drifting into my emotional element and I don't want to go there.
No, corruption is very emotional. According to the World Bank, doing business in Africa, you have to add 10% to take care of corruption. Who wants to add more money if they have an opportunity to actually make more money with less? So 10%, just to do business in Africa, you have to add 10% to your investment. And according to the United Nations, you remember we had this discussion and the African Union was saying that about $140, $150 billion get sidestepped in Africa. According to the United Nations, the closer figure is $3.6 trillion a year. Let it sink in. And they are saying that this will be able to put electricity in every home for 24 hours for 3 years in every African neighborhood. Look at the light source in Nigeria, light source in Ghana that we have christened Dumso. $3.6 trillion annually. Now, that $150 billion annual siphoning of money off the coffers of African countries by the African Union, that is the estimate by the African Union. It is bigger than the GDP of every African country except 5 countries. Just let that sink in. The money that we lose a year, according to the African Union, is bigger than the GDP of every African country except 5 countries. And that money is just lost to corruption. And to reiterate what you've been saying all along, roads are not built or they are not built properly because somebody took 10% or more of the money that was supposed to be put into the road system. I don't blame the contractor. The contractor is a businessman. He's trying to make back his money. So if I'm supposed to use $1 million to build a road and you take $100,000 off, I'll find a way to make the $900,000 work and I'll still get my profit. That is the way it is. I've seen buildings collapse because building inspectors were paid off for a building that should not be put in place so that people die. I've seen businesses produce very shoddy products that eventually kill consumers. Or I've seen import officials allow drugs and other products into a country that should never be allowed in there, and it kills people. So the human cost of corruption is so steep, you get emotional when you're talking about it. The investment cost, the financial, the human capital cost, like you were talking about, is the most insidious when it comes to the issue of corruption. So we're coming back to leadership. We plead it. And we don't even need to plead. We only plead to people's consciences because we don't have systems that will compel people to do the right thing. So you know me, I always say that until we build the systems, we will continue to plead, we will continue to complain, and people die needlessly. We cry, we attribute it to, like you were saying, external forces and all that. But at the end of the day, until it hits really close to your home, you might think that we are just noise makers. But corruption is insidious. Corruption is endemic. Corruption is taking a lot out of our people. And very few people are enjoying the so-called fruits of corruption. So if we really want to build a society, what kind of society do we want to build? If we ask ourselves that question, and if we actually think through the answers like you are always saying, we might end up being able to do something good.
Thank you, Prof. I see we have Kwame. Oh, boss man.
Yes, sir.
Joined us. So I don't know if you have any submissions, any opinions, any
As when you for a while. Sorry.
Any contributions to the topic on the table, you can go ahead and submit that.
My brother, I was in a different meeting. I just came on them and I just linked up. So
okay. I hope all is well with you and the family though.
God has been good. Thank you.
Great.
Yourself?
Great. It's been awesome here.
Prof, I heard your last comment and it's so scary about Africa. We have to come up with something strategic to save the situation. It will take a while, but I guess that once we identify it, we should be able to find a way to stop it. And I guess that the youth are the target who can help us prevent what is the negatives that we talk about Africa. So I'll stay in tune for your next section and then I'll be able to contribute. Brother, thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for your submission. Henry, do you have any contribution? It looks like our time is almost close. So do you have any contribution, questions, or any submissions before we go through our last rounds of submissions?
Yeah, okay, let me quickly chip in this. Nana, I always expect this political managers to be social change agents, transformational leaders. But when they get to the office, it's totally different thing altogether. You see, so the question I'm asking myself here is, what are the punishments if somebody, involved or indulge in this kind of corruptions? You see, if there is department that can, help us to get people, punish people who are involved in this misappropriation of government funds, corruptions. You see, if there's a department that can help us to streamline these things, I think it will help us to stop this corruption completely. So, like Prof is saying, you always have to play it or not to play. Yes, we still begging the authorities that listening, they should help us. Those who involved in those corruptions, there should be a corporate punishment so that it serves as a deterrent to others. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I believe that's what Prof made mention of, the systems that needs to be put in place. So if we have systems functioning, people would have to face the consequences of their actions if they indulge in corruption or any other infraction of the law. the law should be able to take its course, irrespective of who you are, your stature, and what you stand for within the community or the society. But if you don't have systems in place, if the systems are not working, I mean, people get away with some of these things, and people can do anything and just walk away, or pay a price, pay their way through, which most of the time happens. Again, as we're talking about corruption, it's unfortunate, but we need to get the systems up and working. That is one of the ways we can fight this cancer called corruption, which is killing people and killing our economies. If we don't put up systems, sorry, we can't do nothing about it. And the systems will have to run through, from educational systems to whatever system, judiciary, all the systems we have in place, it needs to be up and working. If not, then we are just fighting a losing battle. So looking at the time, we have really exhausted all our time. If anybody has a final curtain closer before we call it a day, you can submit it now.
I am basically done. What I will say to Mr. Kwame Dusepi is that we cannot really wait any longer. We've talked about.
I believe the name is Piasan.
Piasan. Oh, okay. Okay, I should have gone back to actually look at it. We cannot wait. We've been talking about Africans' potential for 400 years, and leadership is also everything. That's the sad part. Me and you, we are leaders in our own rights, but when it comes to changing the momentum of a country, it takes a lot more than individuals. It has to be a monumental movement. But the funny thing is, leadership has leverage. Okay, one person being president can move so much as compared to all of us even put together. So that's why we are always imploring them. But the onus also is on us to choose the right kind of people to be in the right kind of places. And we continue to pray, we continue to hope that Africa finds its feet, because people will eventually get tired, people will eventually get mad. What kind of society do we want to build? I will always come back to that question, because it seems every day we are complaining, but we are not really doing much, and the corrosive effects, because once we have this idea that you are corrupt, we will not even help you to build the society, because we know you are corrupt. The effects shows. You watch every video, our so-called leaders are very wise when they are in opposition. But once you give them the power to actually do something, you find out that empty barrels makes a lot of noise. So we are imploring them once again, like we continue to say, leadership is everything, the rest is effects. You come into any society and you see a lot of problems, know it is leaderless. It's as simple as that. There is nobody who can convince me that Africa has great leaders today. Apart from Botswana and maybe used to be Tanzania and Rwanda.
Tanzania is slipping back into its old because of
Magafuli's death.
Magafuli's absence.
I understand that. We need leaders. We really do. Because results are not fake. Okay, results, they are not fake. And the results that we see, it doesn't really do justice to the kind of resources that we do. So think about that. $150 billion a year lost to corruption, according to the aid. And only 5 countries in Africa has GDPs bigger than that. And we are just throwing it away into individual pockets. I think I can give up now. Thank you, Nana. You can have.
Thank you, Prof. As you said, what kind of society do we want to build? And people are wise and they talk great when they are in opposition. But when you give them the opportunity to make a difference, they kind of slip back into the same jacket they were throwing stones at. We'll talk about that some other time, as we discussed the other time. There's a difference between knowing and understanding, and most of our political managers, they know, but they don't understand what they're supposed to be doing. Anyway, without much ado, would want to thank everybody who's been a part of Leadership Academy. We thank you for investing your time into this program. We are going to continue the discussion next week, same time, 3 p.m. Eastern time and 8 p.m. Ghana time. So if you really get hold of the link, please share it, put it across, let friends, invite friends and family members to be a part of this discussion, because we are here to learn, to better ourselves, and to serve our communities and our generation. Thank you once again. My name is Nana Osei Bonsu Jr. of Afriwic International Organization and Serto Leadership International. My co-pilot, Prof. Kwejo Ewua Frimpong. We had Kwame Edu, Say, Piasa, and Henry, who were part of the panel today. Thank you all, and we are going to see you again same time next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.